friend, grandfather, teacher, brothers, and sons, grandsons, and even he was concerned for the soldiers. And he was concerned about the sinful reactions of killing so many people. And particularly, he was concerned about the family elders upon whose death the family traditions will be lost. And this way, the women will not have any guidance, and there will be unwanted population, war, pestilence, and even the ancestors will be suffering. And so like this, he cited many reasons. And furthermore, his body was not cooperating with him to proceed further. So, but when Lord Krishna heard this kind of an argument from Arjuna, he first of all chastises Arjuna. Chastises means he tries to correct him. And he disapproved his so-called compassion. Why this is so-called compassion? Because ultimately it will not help him or help others. Sometimes we feel compassionate for others, but we very well know that we really cannot do anything. So which means we have not directed our compassion in the proper way. So it is ultimately we are not able to do any good to others by thinking in that way. So in such situations, acting is better than thinking. Now, when Krishna is chastising Arjuna, Arjuna further expresses some of his doubts and confusion. So till this point, he is not giving up in the sense that he is holding on to his argument, line of argument. He doesn't find the need for surrendering to Krishna or a spiritual master, take further guidance. Because all along in his life, he has been very successful and he had all the knowledge required to do the right thing at every stage of his life. But at one point, he understood that he is confused. And therefore, he surrenders to Krishna. In other words, he is asking Krishna for directions. So many times in our life also, when we do not know what to do, go left or right, then we are forced to take help from someone. But it's not necessary that person who's there to help us is the right person. So he can also mislead us. But in this case, Arjuna is surrendered to Krishna, who's the Supreme Lord. So definitely whatever guidance Krishna is going to give him is going to be really practical. And till now, Krishna was not speaking much. In fact, he was only following the orders of Arjuna. And when Arjuna is surrendered to Krishna and asking him for decision making, then Krishna starts instructing him. Now, the next section of the Bhagavad Gita is talking about Sankhya. Sankhya means analysis, analytical study. And for that, you have to use your knowledge. Unless you have knowledge, there's no question of analyzing something. And so firstly, Krishna talks about the difference between the soul and the body. What is permanent, what is cannot be changed, and what is temporary, which is the body and which goes through changes. So that is the difference between matter and spirit. Matter means which is not conscious, and soul means it is conscious. So then Krishna tells him that don't lament unnecessarily. What does lament unnecessarily means? You have to think about what is more important than the less important. For example, some things cannot be changed. So, and some things can be changed. So instead of trying to change something which cannot be changed or preventing the change of something which changes, so that is not intelligence. And all individuals exist eternally and changing bodies is natural. Krishna first establishes this point that all of us are individuals and this cannot be removed from us, this quality of individuality. We are bound to differ from each other. So that is not a drawback. It is, if you utilize it properly, then it serves the purpose. Just like I have 5 fingers in my hand, all are not similar, but one finger cannot replace the function of another finger. So likewise, each of us are individuals, and that's what Krishna tries to explain. And this eternal individuality continues. It has been there in the past, it is there in the present, and it will continue in the future. So even though our bodies may keep changing, the soul as an individual will continue to exist. And so therefore, Krishna says, tolerate dualities. Tolerate means you learn to accept them. Dualities means happiness, distress, cold, heat, loss, gain, fame, infamy, and sorrow, distress. All these are dualities which are natural. Just like the seasons are changing. It's a natural phenomena. So some things have to change. So these dualities, you learn to accept them, understand them, and accept them. Just like when you were a child, you didn't like to go to school because you are comfortable staying at home, or many things you don't like initially. But slowly, slowly, when you start accepting them, you enjoy that same thing which you didn't like in the beginning. So therefore, Krishna says, Tam titikshasva. Titiksha means tolerate, and equanimity is eligibility for. When you learn to tolerate things, then you can take one step further. That is liberation. What is liberation? Liberation means getting more freedom to do what you have to do. Right now, we are very conditioned. There are some things which we cannot do, although we need to do. So then Krishna talks about how the soul never dies. Because it is individual means naturally, even though body is changing, the soul never dies. So what is the proof? There are many scientific evidences for reincarnation, and child prodigies are there. How they are, without any input of knowledge, how they are carrying it from one life to another. So many recorded histories are there. Even those who didn't believe in this reincarnation, when they did scientifically as a doctor, they found many evidences to prove that reincarnation is a fact. And whenever the body is perishable, any body, it can be Brahma's body or Indra, although their lifespan is much, much more than ours. Or there are insects which are live for a few seconds, but nevertheless, the body is perishable. And what an analogy is given. So why this change of body occurring? Because just like we change our dress, as we grew up also, we started changing our dress. And even day-to-day life, we change our dress. So similarly, when the body is not serving the purpose, the soul has to change the body. It is actually welcome, although it looks painful to us. Then Krishna goes further to enumerate the qualities of the soul, because the soul cannot be seen. Any gross object which is made of 5 elements, you can always see, smell, taste, touch, and hear. But the soul and the mind or the intelligence cannot be perceived directly. Just like you cannot see an electron face to face or an atom. Only by a perception, you can say that it exists by the functions it has. So similarly, the soul can be perceived by its qualities which are exhibited indirectly. And birth and death are inevitable. These are anything which takes birth, it goes through 6 changes and eventually dies. Just like this microphone was there, it was not there before. Someone used some technology and produced this mic, and after maybe 100 years or few years, this will go to scrap only. So this is therefore no need to lament for the eternal soul, because the soul is always going to exist. And the change of the bodies is also essential, and it's a fact of life. And even if the body perishes, the soul will continue to exist. So this is what Krishna says. Now, this chapter being a very long chapter, I will not be able to complete this session. So half the chapter I will complete. So today we'll end with one section which talks about Sakama Karma. Sakama Karma means, yes, I am a soul, but I am always having a body. How should I utilize this body? How should I perform work? Because we talked in the introduction, there are 5 subjects in the Bhagavad Gita. And one of the first one is the Supreme Lord. Second is the living entity. Third is material nature. Fourth is time. These first 4 things cannot be changed, in the sense that the nature of, nobody can control these 4 things. Although the soul is controllable, but it's under the control of the Supreme Lord. So these 4 first things are eternal, whereas the 5th subject, which is karma or activity, only that we have freedom to change our activity. So therefore, in this section, Krishna talking about what is the driving force for any activity. First, unless you desire something, unless you feel, think, feel, and will, thinking, feeling, and willing, unless that is there, you won't feel motivated to act. So what is Krishna is telling? First motivation should be the result. Some people are motivated by the result. That is known as Sakama Karma Yoga. Sakama means with the desire. I have a desire. So based on that desire, I act. That is no problem. But still it has to be done in a regulated way. Supposing I came from the main gate to here, I cannot just drive my vehicle whichever way I want. I have to follow the road which is already has been laid out. Similarly, even though we have every right to fulfill our desires, there's a prescribed method for that. So that is known as Sakama Karma Yoga. Karma means activity, any activity, but Karma Yoga means when that activity is done according to the scriptures, what for? To fulfill our desires. That is Sakama Karma. So therefore, there are prescribed duties. Perform prescribed duties that will give you enjoyment. Prescribed duty means just like there's a prescription. Doctor is giving a prescription as to how you can get rid of the disease. Similarly, there is a prescription for how to fulfill our desires. So there is a Varnashrama system, that is Brahmana means if you are intellectual, you can function like an intellectual. If an administrator, a Kshatriya, a ruler, then you have some abilities and activities. And if you are interested in merchandise or business, or you want to cow protection, agriculture, then that is one class. Then fourth class is they want to be guided by someone. There's a worker class. And also you may be celibate, brahmachari, or you get married, grihastha, or you retire from family life, that is a vanaprastha, or you renounce and try to serve society, that is a sannyasi. So as per these varnashrama, prescribed duties. And there also some element of happiness is there through work and qualities. So what is the benefit of doing these prescribed duties? They open the doors for heaven, which means you want higher and higher enjoyment. So if you follow the system, just like you all came to PhD, whatever, you followed the school syllabus, then we went through the BTech, MTech or whatever, and then reached the sum. So there is a prescription to rise higher and higher stages. But Krishna says, if you avoid this fighting, Arjuna gave many reasons as to why he didn't want to do his duty of fighting. Then Krishna says, if you stop this duty, then you will incur sin. Arjuna was thinking that if I kill, I will incur sin. But Krishna says, no, by not fighting, you will incur sin. What is sin? Sin means acting against our nature. When each of us, let us say you're a student and you don't act like a student, that is going to create problems for you and others. Supposing I'm an engineer or a doctor, and I don't act like a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. So it is not doing good for me or for others. So that like similar sin means you act against your nature. So Krishna says that by not fighting, you're just like a soldier is there. If soldier says, no, I have to go to the war field, I have to kill so many people, I have to shoot down or cut down. So that is not going to do good to him, because if he goes to the war field and says, I won't fight, obviously someone is going to kill him, or his country is going to lose because he decided not to fight. So therefore, Krishna says, not only that, people will talk bad about you. That is known as infamy. Infamy means even though you're capable of doing something, people create an opinion about you that you are incapable. So then it becomes very difficult to do, even though you are capable. If some 10 people say that, yes, this person is incapable, then you can't do. That is infamy. And criticism, people will, the moment you do some mistake, because whatever action we do, definitely there will be some mistake. And people will try to find fault with you because they know your weakness. Because they know the weakness, they will try to criticize that, point out that. But once they know that you're a confident person, you, no matter what others say about you, you will continue to perform your work perfectly, or at least you do with the due diligence. Then obviously the criticism will not affect you. So then Krishna tells him about the benefits of fighting, or benefits of doing your prescribed duty. So that is kingdom in victory and heaven in defeat. In other words, if you are doing a prescribed duty, whether it is, the result will not affect you. There are many instances where people lost, supposing a series of cricket is there. So maybe you lost a few games, but there are always been cases where people have ultimately won the series because the defeat was a learning process for them. So Krishna tells that if you die in this battle, because it's a righteous war, if you win the battle, you get the kingdom. And if you die also, it's assured that you will go to heaven. So who is guaranteeing him that heaven? because nothing we can do. See, all the hands, legs, and all the functions in our body, they are controlled by superior demigods. So they are witnessing how we are utilizing it, all this body. So then they decide what next body one should get. So this is the first half of the second chapter, which we'll be discussing today. So far, am I audible? Both the audience here and on the Zoom? Just myself? Okay. Nachiket, can you please confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, Prabhuji, it is audible.
Okay. Okay. So in the previous chapter, Sanjaya, as we know, Dhritarashtra is sitting in his palace and he's asking his secretary Sanjaya to tell him what is happening on the battlefield. Because Dhritarashtra being blind, he cannot witness the war field. And Sanjay is also sitting with him, but he is blessed with the capacity to see remotely. And he is able to describe to Dhritarashtra what is happening on the battlefield. And there in the end of the first chapter, he told Dhritarashtra that Arjuna had decided not to fight. And so Dhritarashtra felt joyful because he wanted Arjuna to give up the kingdom so that his son Duryodhana can continue to rule. So when he heard that Arjuna, who was so capable of fighting, had given up fighting, then Dhritarashtra was happy. But in this chapter, Sanjaya, seeing that Dhritarashtra was hopeful of not losing the kingdom for his sons, began to describe how Krishna inspires Arjuna to fight. So just because our mind tells us something, we need not accept it as the final. We have to use our intelligence. Mind is like two lawyers. We have two lawyers. They are arguing in the court. So one person is also arguing based on the law books. Another person is also arguing on the same law books. But nevertheless, the judge is there. He gives his judgment on higher logic. Similarly, although the mind always is posing two opposing arguments in front of us, then if we are intelligent, then we will know how to decide on those arguments. So here Krishna is able to give that decisive, because Arjuna tells him, I have, please guide me, as we'll see in this chapter. So this chapter is said to be the contents of the Gita summarized, because Arjuna is very despondent. He is very nervous. He is confused. So Krishna cannot give him the entire knowledge at once. So he is giving him the summary of what he is going to say further. And then he will slowly elaborate in the other remaining chapters. In short, this second chapter is talking about Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya Yoga means analytical study. What is important, what is not important, what is permanent, what is temporary, what can be changed, what cannot be changed. All this is part of Sankhya Yoga. The next is Karma Yoga. Karma means how you can attain perfection through work alone. That will be explained to Arjuna as being a Kshatriya, how he can attain, or being a Grihastha or Kshatriya, how you can perfect your life through activity. Then next is talking about how to improve the quality of your work by knowledge or Jnana Yoga. Then he's also talking a little bit about devotion or Bhakti Yoga, because knowledge may be there and you may have the ability to do work, but it's more important on for whom you are using that knowledge. Supposing you're a very intelligent person or a very capable person, depending on which company you join, you are appreciated better. Two people may be equally capable, but depending on for whom they work, their brilliance comes out. Similarly, devotion means you are working for the highest authority. You are using your intelligence, words, and body for the highest authority. So this is the quick summary of the second chapter. Okay. Work with attachment and work without attachment to the results. So that is known as sakama karma and nishkama karma. Sakama karma means your driving force for doing the activity is the result. In other words, you're doing that activity only for the result. And what is the problem with that? Supposing you don't do your work properly, obviously you're not going to get the result. And if you don't get the desired result, you feel demotivated. You don't want to work itself. Without working, nobody can get any result. Of course, you may say there are many instances where a person didn't study properly and got a good, but on the long run, you know very well, without hard work, nobody succeeds. So the problem with working with a result in mind is sometimes if the result is not coming, you may lose interest in the work itself. So if you don't do the work, where's the question of the result? So that also Krishna explains under what conditions your work will fetch the desired result. So that is known as when you do the duty according to the guidance of the scriptures of the spiritual master. Just like if you have a coach, when I was preparing for JEE, some of my batchmates, they used to get personal coaching and I used to get correspondence coaching, but they were able to do much better than me because they had personalized coaching. So similarly, if you are doing your want to do your duties also, just like you have a PhD guide or a thesis supervisor, so then you can perform much better. So this Sakama Karma Yoga also, if it is under the guidance of the scriptures or spiritual master or some experienced people, then it can help you to get the result. If I don't get the result, but Krishna explains later in the 18th chapter that there are 5 factors for any action. If you want to get the result, it's not that you alone work and you get the result. That's why we get confused. Some people think that I worked so hard and why I didn't get the result. So Krishna explains later that there are 5 factors for either a success or failure. One is the place of action. Supposing I have this body, I'm limited by this body. I cannot fly, I cannot swim. I cannot swim like an Olympic, or I cannot do certain things because I am limited by the body. Or supposing I want to play cricket here, it's not possible because this place is not meant for that. So there's a body, Kshetra. That is the first criteria. Just like they came to the Kurukshetra battlefield, they didn't find anywhere and everywhere. They chose a particular place for a particular reason. So similarly, unless you have the proper place or the body, that's the first factor. Second factor is depends on the living entity. Supposing a very experienced person is there, if you give him the worst instrument also, he can do very good performance. So the person also is one of the important factor. 2 people are there, you give him the same set of conditions, one person will perform much better than the others. So what is the difference? There are 2 different individuals. The second factor is the living entity. The third factor is the instruments of action. Supposing you give me a very good instrument or a bad instrument, I don't have proper eyes, ears, nose, tongue, or skin, then I cannot function properly. So the third factor is the instruments, and fourth is the different kinds of endeavor. Supposing this laptop is there, but I don't know how to use it, then I cannot perform. I may be a very intelligent person, but I have never used this laptop. I will be struggling. So there is a way, endeavor to achieve success also, you have to endeavor in a particular way. But all this may be there, but ultimately the sanction of the Supreme Lord is required. That's why Krishna was guiding personally all the Pandavas and they were successful. And so, so therefore, why we discuss these 5 subjects is the result of any action is ultimately under the control of the Lord. So just like you go to some casinos are there. In Las Vegas, there are casinos. But they've designed those games such a way that mostly the person who's playing, he will ultimately lose. Obviously, the company who has set up that casino, they want some profit. So they initially to lure the person, they will make him win a few games. But ultimately, they reach the point that they want to commit suicide because it is so frustrating that they lose the game. So likewise, this world is designed such that we cannot win. So in the sense that if you are not following the process. So therefore, Krishna talks about Nishkama Karma Yoga. So that is working without attachment to the result. Some people have been very successful even though they failed many times. The failure is the stepping stone to success. So here, 1.10, yeah. This chapter begins with Arjuna's indecision. See, indecision can be due two reasons. One is you don't know anything about anything, so you cannot decide anything. Supposing I give you some 10 choices in a question and you don't even understand the question, it really doesn't matter to you all the choice. You simply randomly tick some choice, isn't it? It is not like that in the case of Arjuna. He knew very well what are the choices in front of him. So still he was indecisive. So why that is, we will see. But nevertheless, he is accepting Lord Krishna as a guru. Till now, he is treating Krishna as a friend. Just like we take some relationships for granted. You may be related with so many people. Normally, we don't take them seriously. But when a critical situation comes, then we'll make the best use of that relationship and we appreciate that person. So here Arjuna also was a friend of Krishna and he was related to Krishna from his mother's side. But he never came across a situation where he had to ask for guidance. Of course, he was taught by his spiritual master Dronacharya, but that was in his childhood. But as he grew up and he was very successful in his life, he didn't feel the need for consulting elders and even to speak of Krishna. But he was now in a situation where he had no hope, and therefore he was forced to surrender to Krishna and take his guidance. But Krishna also, after hearing the reasoning of Arjuna, he did not acknowledge that. He didn't say that, yes, whatever you're thinking is right. There are two things. One is a foolish friend and an intelligent enemy. Sometimes a friend may be foolish. So whatever you do, he may say, okay. It's like Kamsa was there. He was a very cruel. And whatever he was doing, his friends used to say, whatever you're doing is right. Similarly, Duryodhana was there. The Karna came and supported him. That Dushasana, whatever he did, Karna supported him. So foolish friend, but an intelligent enemy is better than a foolish friend. Some person may be very strict with us. He may be commenting or criticizing us, but he may be a well-wisher. So here, Krishna first tries to chastise Arjuna. Although Arjuna thought he was arguing very intelligently, Krishna being more intelligent, he corrected him then and there. So Arjuna was feeling compassionate. What was Arjuna's main problem? His main problem was he was thinking about others suffering. Of course, we have to be concerned about others, but if it is misplaced, supposing you see a person is suffering some disease and you try to feed him thinking that he will recover or do something, but that may not be intelligent. Best thing is you are not a doctor. You don't know what is happening to him. And instead you carry him to the hospital, which is better instead of trying to do some first aid or a small remedies, a home remedy. The best thing is to go to a doctor. So Arjuna was trying to sort out the problem by himself or to help others. Kripaya Vishtam. Kripa means compassion. Avishtam means full. And lamentation, Vishidantam. But this compassion was making suffer more. Sometimes your suffering keeps on increasing by thinking about it. The problem as such may be not so big, but by thinking about the problem, it becomes more and more. So that instead of a problem is there means you have to solve it. But if you're looking at the problem, you become more and more agitated, then you definitely going further will be very difficult. So that's what has happened to Arjuna. And his eyes full of tears. So tears means two types of tears are there. One tear is produced in happiness. Sometimes you become, tears come to your eyes. Another kind of tear is you become incapacitated. You break down. They call it breakdown, emotional breakdown, which means he's supposed to do something, but at that moment he starts crying and he just cannot do anything. So that is all the problem. Ashrupura Kulakshanam. And then because Krishna is seeing his friend and relative in this desperate situation, Krishna thought that I have to speak. All along he was keeping silent, but he thought, if Krishna had spoken before, Arjuna's flows as thoughts would have been disrupted. So Krishna would not have heard him properly, or Arjuna would have felt that Krishna is not addressing my concern or hearing me out. So that's why when you have one person comes to a problem, instead of immediately telling him what is the solution or what we think is the solution or what is the problem, better we allow him to speak it out or help him to explain his problem. So that's what Krishna did to Arjuna. He gave him sufficient time to Arjuna to explain his condition. Now Krishna is called Madhusudana. Why? Because all the names of Krishna, as we saw in the earlier chapter, were given to him based on his accomplishments, which means according to his name, he did something by which we can say, yes, he deserves this name. So Madhu was a demon. At the time of creation, Brahma, he wrote the Vedas, and Madhu and Kaitapa, two demons, they stole the Vedas. Sometimes knowledge is stolen. Supposing you have an ID password, someone hacks into your computer and steals all your data or whatever. So this is nothing new. It was there before also. Brahma had written down he didn't write it down, but this Madhu and Kaitapa, just like some ideas are stolen, even before you publish it, some of the ideas get stolen. Or same people are there on the different continents. This person is doing some research. The other person somehow gets that information. There's nothing has been transferred from here to there, but it has happened in the past. So likewise, this Madhu and Kaitava, they were able to steal the knowledge from Brahma. But then God had to appear as Hayagriva, horse head, and he had to kill this demon. So he was named Madhusudana. So Krishna is called Madhusudana because he killed the demon named Madhu. Now Arjuna wanted Krishna to kill the demon of misunderstanding. Just like a policeman is there. He's also a citizen like that. But you don't say, call him by his name. He may be Shankar or something, but you call him police, which means you have to identify a person by his qualification. So although Arjuna addresses Krishna generally as a friend or relative, in this situation, he is using the particular name Madhusudana, so that he wants Krishna to function in that capacity as a remover of doubts. So what was the problem with Arjuna? He was not able to perform his duty. Duty means dharma. Suppose salt is there, the dharma of the salt is to give salt taste. Nothing can replace salt. You cannot put one spoon of sugar in place of salt. Even salt is cheap, very cheap, but nothing can replace the position of salt. So likewise, duty means something which nobody else can do like you. Some people think I'm doing my duty, but if someone else can do that, it is not really your duty. Duty means specific, very specific. That's why we have specific job description. Which means duty is something which only you can do. Even God cannot do that. That is how God has given us some independence. People think God has taken away my independence. God is controlling us. No. He has given the karmanya vadikaraste. Every living entity has a specific duty which nobody else can do. That is the definition of duty. So first, Lord Krishna disapproves Arjuna's so-called compassion. Why? Because it is not going to benefit him or those whom he thinks will benefit. Shri Bhagavan Vacha. Here the word Bhagavan is used. Bhagavan means one who possesses 6 opulence. Bhaga means opulences. So this is fitting only to Krishna. How do we know? He had demonstrated him throughout the life. First opulence is Aishwarya, riches. Aishwarya is something Viryasya. Virya means courage. So like that, he had strength, he had beauty, he had knowledge, he had fame, he had riches, and he had renounced. Renounced means although he had all these opulences, he was giving it out to others. That is Krishna's nature. So he is Bhagavan Uvacha, the supreme personality of God, Krishna said. So which means whatever is spoken by Krishna is very, very important. So what did he say? Kutastva kashmalam idam. Where kuta means where from. Kashmalam is saying. Kashmalam means impurities. Supposing a metal is gold is there. The moment some impurity is there, its quality changes. Aluminium, for example. We need 99.9% purity in aluminium. Otherwise, you cannot use it for the painting the vehicles or whatever. The gloss is there, shiny nature is there. It is coming only by 99.9% aluminium. Even slight impurity is there, its qualities will not be displayed. So how have these impurities come upon you? Vishame samupastitam. Particularly in this critical hour of crisis, especially when supposing I'm using this instrument and the right time it fails. then it looks very embarrassing for me because I am supposed to perform at this time. And when I am ready to do, then everything fails. So that's what Krishna says. When you have to be thinking properly, very focused way, clearly, you are getting confused. So, kutastva kashmalamidam vishame samupasthitam. How have these impurities come upon you in this critical hour of crisis? Anarya jushtam. Anarya means one who doesn't know the value of life. Supposing this mouse is there, I start using it as a paperweight. So it is a misuse of the object. So anarya means who doesn't know the value of life. A human being is most gifted. Even in a heavenly planet or hellish planet, you don't have that much freedom. In heavenly planets, you're only enjoying. In hellish planets, you're only suffering. But human being only has a privilege to act according to dharma. And so it's called karma bhuni. So anarya means who is not knows the value of life. Anarya jushtam. Do not befit a civilized man who values liberation. What is liberation? More freedom to do things. Liberation means the soul is Satchidananda. It is eternal. It is knowledgeable. It has the capacity to enjoy. But currently, our knowledge, our existence, our happiness is very limited. So how to get Aishwaryam Akirtim Arjuna? So if you think like this and act according to this thinking, then do not lead to higher planets, but lead to infamy. You will not progress in life, and furthermore, people will start thinking bad about you. If some people think bad about you, you're almost dead. Living dead, it is called. Just like some kind of okay. Ebhyam masma gamah partha. Do not yield to this degrading importance. Importance means a person is not able to deliver what he is supposed to do. You're a Kshatriya, you're a son of a very Bharata dynasty, but now if you are not able to perform, that is incapacity, cowardice. And he's particularly addressing Arjuna as Partha. Partha means son of Pritha. Pritha means his mother Kunti. So Kunti is related to Krishna as a aunt. So you are related to me through Kunti. And if you do this, I will also, it is not good for you because having been. And then, Naitat upapadyate. This is not suitable for you. Chudram hridaya daurbalyam. Daurbalyam means, hridaya daurbalyam means weakness of heart. Just like a person has a weak heart, he cannot function properly. He cannot drink properly, eat properly, sit properly, talk properly, walk properly, think properly because of the weakness of the heart. So this heart means here referring to the mind. Normally we think whatever thoughts are coming are in the brain, but actually thoughts are coming from the heart. That's why they have love symbols and all showing the heart, which means the emotions are coming from the heart, but the discrimination is coming through the brain. That is the function of the intelligence. So the so-called magnanimity, Shudram, Hridaya Daurbalyam. So you think that by being non-violent, you are being compassionate. Supposing a doctor is there, a patient comes before him, and he thinks, oh, I should not cut this patient. I should not do a surgery. I'm using a knife and cutting open his body and blood is coming. And he made, so that is not intelligence. He has to be violent, or a soldier is there on the battlefield. He has to be violent. So you cannot prescribe non-violence then. So, parantapa, give it up and arise with chastiser. Parantapa means chastiser of the enemy. So all along, Arjuna was trained to fight the enemy because he knew it's not that whimsically he was fighting. As per Dharma, he was fighting and defeating so many people. At this time, if you lose heart, then you will be not performing your duty. So Krishna is reminding Arjuna that you are a chastiser of the enemy. Give it up and arise. Don't hold on to this kind of a wrong judgment. Parantapa. So I explained already, Bhagavan means one who possesses 6 opulences. So if Krishna, who possesses these 6 opulences, he already demonstrated before the war took place, they were already 100 years old, more than Krishna lived for 125 years like that. So this war was fought at a time when they were very old. Of course, in those previous ages, people used to live long and you had good bodily strength, intelligence and everything. So already Krishna demonstrated that he is God by his many pastimes. Okay, 4 to 6 verse. Yeah. Arjuna gives further doubts and what is the cause for his confusion. Sometimes a person is not intelligent, he has no doubts, no confusion. But the person is intelligent, he gets more doubts, more confusion. So that is the situation of Arjuna. What was his doubt? How can I counteract in battle men like Bhishma and Drona who are worthy of my worship? So all along he had been respecting Bhishma and Drona because Bhishma was his grandfather and Drona was his teacher. And as we saw in the earlier chapter, if someone is an aggressor, 6 kinds of aggressors are there, then you can kill them. The Shastras are recommending killing such persons. But Arjuna thought that in this case, those aggressors happen to be my seniors. And how can I apply the same rule? Particularly, they are worthy of my worship. But that is a mistake. Actually, when Bhishma and Drona, they were in the gambling match and Draupadi was being insulted, they should not have kept silent. They should have stopped it. But they permitted it, thinking that they should be loyal to Duryodhana. So then itself, they were transgressed the laws of Dharma. So, but he is thinking, I still have to respect them. So this we see many times. We know our leader is wrong. Just like many, I don't need to mention. There are the followers are there. Everyone is saying that the leader is wrong, at least from those who don't belong to that party. But still people hold on to that leader, till the point of death. So now in this case, Arjuna did not understand that he has to reject these so-called elders because they had violated the Dharma. So what he's saying, superiors are not always respectable and not to be offered even a verbal fight, even if they are sometimes harsh. Sometimes you know the person who's leading us is wrong, but you're afraid to speak out in front of him. There are many situations like this. You know that person is wrong and you feel like telling him, but you don't have the courage to tell him. So that was the situation of Arjuna. He's saying that even if someone is wrong, because they are my elder, I think I should keep quiet. It is and further, Arjuna is asking Krishna, okay, you are telling me to not so, I need not think about Bhishma and Drona, but what about you? Would you do this if you were in my position? Would you do a similar thing? Would you disrespect your spiritual master Sandipani Muni or your grandfather Ugrasena? You are asking me to do which you yourself would not do. Like that, Arjuna is asking Krishna. So he says, better to live by begging. Bhiksham, Bhiksha. Bhiksham comes from the word Bhiksha. So, in other words, I will not work for my result. Why should I work so hard for this purpose? Than to kill such great souls, Mahanubhavan, my teachers and superiors, Gurun, though they desire worldly gain, Arthakaman. So first thing is, he thinks begging is better than fighting. There are many, even Arjuna, Krishna also, when he had to fight Jarasandha, 17 times he was defeated. By the 18th time, Krishna decided that if I fight with Jarasandha, many soldiers are getting killed unnecessarily. So he went with a plan. He took Bhima and Arjuna disguised as Brahmanas and went to Jarasandha and begged from him that I want to fight with you single combat. Instead of fighting with an army, I want to fight you one-to-one. Not only that, when Vamanadev was there, he wanted all the heavenly kingdom from Bali Maharaja. He went as a begging. He also went like a Brahmana and begged. So likewise, Arjuna is thinking that it's better I live by begging than killing so many people. Sometimes you also decide you're not happy with the job you're doing. So then you settle down with some other job, thinking I'm better off doing this than that because of the inconveniences. Even if the other party is wrong, why I should be wrong? That is another line of argument. So that is reactive response. Reactive means you are supposed to act, but you're always thinking what the other person will think about you or what he is doing. Let him do, then I will respond. So that may fail sometimes. This is how we conduct our life mostly, that we are responding to situations, but not doing what we are supposed to do. So we lose our individuality in the process. Just like you see many people, they took some very bold decisions and they were very successful. They didn't think like the laity. Laity means common man. They keep on thinking and promoting something. And if you blindly follow what others are recommending, then you won't be successful. You have to think independently sometimes, at least not all the time, but sometimes, crucial times. If you make an independent decision, you may be very successful. So now here a clarification is given that when you can reject a superior, a teacher who does an abominable action and has lost discrimination is fit to be abandoned. Bhishma and Drona were obliged to take the side of Duryodhana because of his financial assistance and thus lost their respectability. Yet Arjuna denied killing them because of his continued acceptance of them as gurus. There's a criteria on which you select a guru, and there are some criteria when you can reject a guru also. Similarly, supposing you have hired a lawyer, and after some time you feel he's not the right person. Obviously, you have to change the lawyer or you have to change the doctor. You are following someone's line of medical treatment, but you come to realize that something is going wrong. Then you obviously have to change the doctor, change the hospital, or change the guide also. We have seen many times some students have to change the guide also. So likewise, now Arjuna thinks he will continue to be loyal to his grandfather Bhishma and the teacher Drona. But at the same time, he's saying, I do not know which is better, conquering or being conquered. If we kill the sons of Dhritarashtra, we should not care to live, yet they are standing before us. So he has already explained, if I conquer them, then it will be at the expense of so many people's lives. So with whom will I share that kingdom? I need supposing I build a very big house and nobody is going to stay there. Then what is the point? So similarly, even if I win the kingdom, who is going to benefit by that? That's what his thing. And secondly, if I don't fight, then they will kill me. So this is the other option. So should I dutifully fight and risk unnecessary violence, or should I refrain and live by begging? So basically, he is considering the pros and cons. So that shows his detachment. Detachment means he is willing to do anything. If someone tells him this is the right thing, he can do this or that. It's not that very rigid. Some people are very rigid. They will do only one way and if told like that. So they cannot change their tactics later. But Arjuna was quite flexible. Victory is anyways not certain. Another reason he's thinking is, okay, if I put all this effort, and what if I don't win this war? First of all, I might have killed so many people in the process, and having killed so many people, if I don't win the war, then what worth is it? So he's not, even though Krishna is by his side, he's doubting whether he will be victorious. Although initially he chose Krishna, knowing well that Krishna will help me to get victory, at this juncture, he lost his faith. So this may happen to us also. We join some organization or we accept someone as the guide or whatever. And so middle of the thing, we are not so really confident in that relationship. Sometimes we marry someone also. At the middle, we are thinking whether there's any purpose in going through. And victory is also defeat. We can't live happily after killing leaders. So basically, he's repeating the same points again and again. So this time, Arjuna's intelligence got bewildered. The mind nature it has to think differently. If you go to a court, obviously even the person we know for sure he has committed a major crime and he needs to be hanged or killed, still he is given the option to hire a lawyer. We have seen many times in front of our eyes he has done a very brutal act and there's no way he can be pardoned, but still the government gives him the privilege to hire a lawyer and defend himself. So likewise, these two arguments, mind will always pose the conflicting. The nature of the mind is to think differently. So, but intelligence is not fixed means then the senses will go as per the mind. Sometimes you will think this is the best thing. The next moment you think, no, this is not the best thing. Maybe I should have done that. So Arjuna's intelligence got bewildered in trying to understand the implementation of dharma. He knows what is right. Supposing I give you 10 jobs to do. You know, all the 10 jobs are important. Supposing you have 100-mark paper. So it's not that I will take only some questions and leave the other. No, you have to attempt, because it's a very competitive exam. Obviously, you have to attempt as many questions as possible. But at the same time, there's a time constraint. So therefore, you have to prioritize things. So he is not able to prioritize. He knows what is right, what is wrong. How to solve the problem also he knows. But he is not able to decide which is most important, which is the most important criteria for me. And therefore, he submits himself as a disciple of Krishna seeking his guidance. So which he feels that he needs to be disciplined. Even the most best sportsman, you see, they have accepted a coach. Actually, you see, Virendra Sehwag is there. He was not performing well, but he went to a coach, and after he took the coach, he did two double centuries he had. So why is that? The coach is actually not as talented as the sportsman, but his contribution is valuable. He also has to something to contribute, which the player himself cannot identify. No? So Arjuna surrenders to Lord Krishna. Arjuna accepts Lord Krishna as Guru. Guru means someone who is heavier than you. Supposing you are not able to use your intelligence properly, you need to approach someone who is more experienced than you. That is intelligence. Intelligence is the better part of valor. Some people, they think I am very intelligent and they become foolish. But some person is thinking, yes, I am intelligent, but in some areas I'm not so intelligent. So better I take some guidance. So that's what Arjuna accepts Krishna as his Guru. Guru means heavy with knowledge and realization. Karpanya doshu apahata swabhava. Karpanya means kripanata. Kripanata means miserliness. Miserliness means he doesn't know how to utilize things. Supposing I give 100 rupee to a child, he will just put it in his mouth. He doesn't know this 100 value of the 100 rupee. So likewise, a kripana means who doesn't know the value of the human body, how best he can use that particular situation or opportunity. Karpanya dosha. Dosha means it's a miserly weakness. The same thing can be a strength or a weakness depending on how intelligent you are. Apahata swabhava. I am afflicted. Due to miserly weakness, I am afflicted. Swabhava. Prichami tam dharma sammoda cheta. I ask you, being confused about meditation, what is the problem? Ultimately, he is not able to perform. He is not able to act like a Kshatriya. He is not able to take a decision. Yatreyasyan nishchitam bruhitam. Tell me certain what is best for bruhi means tell me. You may know, but unless you tell me, I will not know. Supposing you're doing a mistake and the other person is simply watching you, that is no good. He has to tell you. So, and you have to ask him, please tell me. Sometimes we ask a person to please give a feedback about us. So similarly, Arjuna is asking Krishna, Bruhi, tell me. Nishchitam means for certain. Tell me for certain, because I cannot exercise options now. I cannot keep trial and error and do something. I want decisively what I should do. Shishya steham sadimam tvam prapanam. Shishya means I am your disciple. I am agreeing to be disciplined by you. If you say something is wrong, I will accept it and correct myself. Discipline. Shishya ste aham. I shadimam. Surrendered. Prapanam means surrendered. Shadima means please instruct me. And I can find no means to drive away this grief. He has tried his best to analyze and solve the problem by himself, but he has not been successful, which is drying up my senses. What is the problem ultimately? His senses are drying up, which means they are not able, supposing fluid is not flowing, the hydraulic fluid or the water, the pneumatic air is not flowing, then that equipment will not function. So his senses have become dried up, and so he is not able to perform. Even if I've been a prosperous unrivaled king with sovereignty like that of the demigods, supposing you solve the problem for me, then also I will not be happy. Supposing I get a better destination, if I go to heaven also, I think this problem will persist then there also. Sometimes you feel the problem has to be solved. Superficially, you say, okay, forget it. Some people say, forget about the problem, let us go and do something. Then also it will be hanging in your mind. No, I have to address it. So that's what is Arjuna's situation. A guru has to approach to solve the perplexities life and understand the solution. First of all, why do we need to a guru? First is to understand the problem itself. That itself, most of us don't know. then we keep trying so many solutions and problem never gets solved, which means that you have not even understood the problem. So that guru has to first tell you what is the problem, then he has to explain the solution, and third, he has to make you follow the solution. Many times we know the solution, but we are not willing to even follow that. So guru has these three roles to do, and that's what Krishna meant for Arjuna. Arjuna realized that the so-called knowledge, wealth, and material comforts are useless in solving his problems, because he had all this. He had all the knowledge, he had all the wealth, and he had all the material comforts. As we see in many countries, most advanced countries, they're facing some problems which are not at all a problem in the underworld, the undeveloped countries. So why it is so? Because just because you are rich doesn't mean you won't fall sick. Just because you are very famous doesn't mean you won't grow old and die. It is common to everyone. Therefore, he wants to stop friendly talks with Krishna and become a disciple of Krishna, as he finds no one superior to him. He has so many superiors. Actually, he could have gone to Bhishma, he could have gone to Dronacharya and some of the elders. But he knew that they cannot solve his problem, because if they could have solved his problem before, he would not have been in the situation. So he understood that only if someone can solve my problem, it's only Krishna. Because that he will explain why he thought like that in the 10th chapter. Dhritarashtra must have been very glad to know that Arjuna was not going to fight and his sons could get the kingdom, but Sanjaya disappointed him by speaking as follows. So while this discussion is going on between Krishna and Arjuna, parallelly, Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya were also discussing this. So it's not that sometimes something is happening, we are not the only party. There are some people, other stakeholders also who are involved in it. So here Dhritarashtra is also feeling the impact of this discussion. So we may say, I'm not concerned what other person is discussing, it doesn't matter to me, but it is important for me to find out what they're discussing, because they could be discussing a problem similar to mine. So that's why we participate in all these seminars and group discussions or whatever, conferences and all this, because maybe that person has a solution to our problem. Maybe not be the same thing, but something we could get some inputs from that. So here, while this discussion was going on between Krishna and Arjuna, Dhritarashtra and Sanjay are also having some experience of it. Arjuna, the chastiser of enemies, Parantapa, then told Rishikesha, Govinda, I shall not fight, and fell silent. So even after the first chapter, Arjuna decided not to fight, but again he started speaking some more, and then second time he's confirming that I will not fight. But at the same time, Krishna is addressed as Rishikesha, which means he controls our senses. It's not that I can do whatever I think is right. Sometimes we think I will be able to do what I feel, or others tell me what to do. It doesn't work. Why? Because the Lord is there as Rishikesha. He is controlling the activities. Supposing you want to drive the vehicle on the road, and the other person also wants to drive as he likes, it won't work. There's going to be a traffic policeman, and he is going to regulate both of you. So likewise, this Rishikesha, he is controlling senses of all living entities. Otherwise, there will be chaos. Some insects are there. Thousands of insects are flying towards the tube light, but they don't crash against themselves. But you see so many aircrafts are there, they have had mid-air collision. But have you seen two birds colliding in the air, and so many ants are crawling? Have you seen some two ants hit against and collapse, one died, or some? But on the roads, we see so many vehicles, accidents happening. So how is it possible? Rishikesha is there, he is controlling the senses of all the living entities. But Arjuna is conscious about that. Sometimes the solution to a problem may be nearby, but we are not conscious about it. We are looking for it somewhere. So Arjuna was aware that his problem is better known to Krishna, and he has a solution, and he can guide me through the solution. What was Arjuna's problem? Grief due to family affection. Actually, family is good. Being a family, friend, and society, it is good in one sense. But the same thing can be a problem. Any food we are taking, it is good for our body, but it can also do harm to us if it is not regulated. So similarly, false grief due to family affection, overly attachment. Some attachment is required, but it becomes just like a plant is there. You have to put some water and put some sunlight. But if it's too much sun or too much water, it will die. So that is the problem with having too much affection or too much attachment. Then he surrendered unto Krishna, the supreme guru, is known as, he would soon be enlightened and surely fight. Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. What does it mean? Krishna is the one guru for every living entity, and he can solve everyone's problem. Krishna is called Rishikesha, controller of the senses, because Krishna would now make Arjuna manifest intelligence to fight. So, because Arjuna surrendered to Krishna, Krishna will empower Arjuna to use his intelligence. Same person is there. He was dull before. He went to some, I have seen personally also, my guide was very intelligent. So although I was not doing well, because of taking guidance from him, I became intelligent, the way he thought and all this thing. So similarly, Arjuna, when he is taking guidance from Krishna, his intelligence becomes more bright, because Krishna is the supreme intelligent. Krishna is called Govinda, knower of everything. So if you have to help someone, you should know something. Unless otherwise, what help can you do to others? So Govinda means he understands what is going through all our thoughts. He can understand all the thoughts of all living entities. That's why he is known as Govinda, and therefore he is able to fulfill our desires. And how will Krishna fulfill our desires? By allowing us to follow Dharma. Dharma means, as I told you, something which cannot be taken away from you. That's our constitution. Just like as a citizen of India, as per the constitutional rights, you are invested with some powers. So likewise, this Dharma means something which is inherent to us, each of us, which by doing, all of us can be equally happy. Right now, why someone is happy, someone is not happy, someone is successful, someone is not successful? Because each of us are not doing our Dharma. We are doing so-called Dharma. Then what's happening? Relatively success and some failure is happening. So Dharma means that which, by doing which, every individual can be equally happy and equally successful. So that's what Krishna will, when Krishna is telling Arjuna, it's not only a success formula for Arjuna, but for success formula for every living entity. Now, Arjuna had some specific qualification for receiving this knowledge from Krishna. So what is that qualification? Just like if you enroll for some course, there are some pre-qualifications, prerequisites for that. So Arjuna's qualification was, he has Shama and Dama. So Shamata means control over his mind and senses, equanimity. And Upariti means indifference to enjoyment. Although he had the capacity to enjoy whatever he wants, he was using his discrimination. Some people are there, whatever they see, they will eat, or whatever they feel like they do. But some people, although they have the capacity to enjoy like that, they control themselves. So that is his Uparati. Rati means attachment. Uparati means he is able to transcend that attachment. He is able to discriminate and control himself. Titiksha means tolerance towards duality. Even if someone is disturbing him, he doesn't get disturbed. There's many successful whatever politicians or sportsmen are there, they don't get disturbed by the opponent. So like that, he has this quality of titiksha. And Shraddha, faith in the instructions of Sri Krishna. What is faith? Faith means you have to put your faith in something which is the topmost. It's not that you put your faith in something which will fail you. And some people say, I have a lot of faith in you. But what is the use of such faith when you have misplaced it? Put it in the wrong place. So faith should be on something highest. But at the same time, it is very sublime. Sublime means you cannot act whimsically. Just because you have faith in God, I cannot do whimsical things. Supposing you're related to a very rich father or a very famous person, it doesn't give the right to you to act as you like. Yes, you have the privilege, but at the same time, you have to exercise that relationship properly. And so these were all the qualities of Arjuna, which made him eligible to receive this knowledge and benefit from this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Then Krishna smiled and spoke to the grief-stricken Arjuna. Now, why Krishna was smiling? Because he is thinking, why my friend, my relative is going through this? Why has he to go through this? And also he has the solution to the problem. That's why he is able to smile, because he understood what is Arjuna's problem and what is the solution. So we should, when we have a problem, we should go to a person who understands the problem and also can help solve it. So Lord Krishna smiled slightly because his friend Gudakesha had chosen to become a disciple. Why? Arjuna was already accomplished in many ways. As we said, his name, one of his names was Gudakesha. Gudakesha means he had conquered sleep and ignorance, because even in night time he used to practice archery. And he had overcome ignorance also. That's why he was able to quote so many scriptures to defend himself. So it doesn't mean that you are very successful in life, you don't need someone to guide you. So Arjuna, although he was accomplished in his own way, he still had surrendered to Krishna. That's what Krishna appreciated. And that's why he is smiling. Supposing you want to give advice, but you know that that person will not listen to you, then you will keep quiet. So likewise here Arjuna, although he had his own reasons, still he put it to Krishna. And that's why Krishna was pleased with him. And he wanted to give him knowledge. Now Krishna started speaking to him with gravity. Gravity means you exert your authority. Sometimes you have to exert your authority. You say, yes, someone accepts you an authority and you try to please him. That will not work. You go to a doctor and you start telling the doctor what you like, which treatment you want, or which medicine you like, and which diet you want. That is not going to serve. He has to exert his authority. Doctor will say, no, you cannot eat this. You have to go undergo the surgery, or you have to follow this. So then that's what Krishna accepted the role of a guru, and he acted with gravity and chastising his student. There have been some coaches who even beat the sportsmen. They scold bad words also, they use if required. Also, why they are not? There was one person. Okay, we'll not go into that. Actually, he was the guru, and that prince. The prince was sent to learn something from the guru. He's a Muslim actually, and he was being trained by a Hindu those days. So in his childhood, the guru beat the prince, and it created a mark on his back. And later when he grew up, his wife asked this Muslim ruler, why is this scar on your back? He said, my teacher, when I was a child, I did a mistake, and for that he beat me. So this wife became very angry. How is it? You are a prince, and how could a teacher beat you? No, he said, see, at that time, if I didn't learn my mistake, it would have been costed me my life in future, because as a ruler, I have to fight. And if I do some mistakes, it's going to be very costly. So sometimes the teacher has to be very strict with the, you see, sometimes the guides are also very strict. But afterwards, you appreciate them. Yes, if he was not strict, I would not have been so successful. Now Krishna is talking about this Sankhya Yoga, analysis of body and soul, the difference between what is temporary and what is permanent. Because Arjuna was compassionate for the body. He is trying to save the bodies. But no matter how much you, a very good doctor may be there also, he cannot save a patient. Just like Michael Jackson or who was there. They were very rich people. They had all the money. Even one person, I think a Russian Stalin or something, he told, you preserve my body, and even if you don't have the technology to bring a dead body back to life, you conduct some research and then you bring me back to life. We had so much money. So like that, so the body cannot be alive forever. But Arjuna was feeling compassion for the body. So that is the misplaced compassion. So Krishna instructs Arjuna to give up unnecessary lamentation by understanding that the spirit soul eternal and the material body is perishable, and encourages him to fight. So 3 things Krishna is telling. First, to understand that the soul is eternal. The soul will never die. That fact is establishing by giving some analogies. Then he's saying how the material body will perish. Even if it is Brahma's body, it has to perish. And thirdly, he's saying, still you have to do your duty. You have to accept this and perform. You cannot keep arguing, why is it like this? Why it cannot be like that? You have to accept. Sometimes you are put in a situation, you start complaining. Oh, this is not there, that is not there, how I can cook? But some people are very expert. Whatever is there, they will improvise on that. Don't Ashocyan anvashocastvam prajnavadam chujabasise gatasu nagatasumsha nanushochanti pandita. You're mourning for what is not worthy of grief. That is the first thing Krishna is chastising Arjuna. You don't know the worth of what you're thinking. You're thinking it's very important. Sometimes you are answering a paper. You think that's a very important question, but you're wasting time on it. So like that, you are wasting time on something which is not worthy of grief. At the same time, you're speaking like a very learned person. That is more dangerous. Because at least if you don't know, you will say, I don't know, and whatever I say, you follow. But now, even if I tell you what is right and wrong, you will say, you keep arguing with me. So that is another problem Krishna is telling. Gatasun, agatasun, nanu shochinta pandal. Gatasun means something which is dead. Agatan means something which is living. And Pandita means wise. The wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. So why is it like that? Because by thinking in certain way, you're not going to change things. Just because you think in some other way, you cannot change the nature of things. They will remain as it is. Even though you may be. So, but still, why Arjuna was able to argue the way he's thinking? He's referring to some scriptures. Sometimes you read too much. Nowadays, people are, before they go to a doctor, they do Google search. And then they go and advise the doctor also. So doctors are getting annoyed nowadays. Whatever they say, the patient first conducts some Google search. He does so many reviews about the doctor or the treatment, and then come to the doctor. So the doctor is having a tough time. First, he has to convince him that what he's thinking is wrong. Supposing you do a medical report and some abnormal values come, immediately before you go to meet the doctor, you think something is very serious, and you are expecting the doctor to struggle with your problem. But he will say nothing, that's not so serious. So many times we have seen this. So Arjuna, because he argued that Dharma Shastra is greater than Artha Shastra, politics or social, but he did not know that Jnana Shastra, knowledge of matter, soul, and supreme control is both, is even greater. So too much knowledge is also a problem. So in his case, because he has not applied that knowledge, just knowledge alone is not enough. You need application of the knowledge. So it is possible only under expert guidance. Because Arjuna didn't, no matter how expert knowledgeable you may be, if you don't have the experience, that is not going to be, in fact, it will do more harm than good. Now, there should be no lamentation for the destruction of the gross body, since it's inevitable. Because you cannot say that I'll wear a shirt which will never get spoiled. Obviously, you have to change the shirt. For different occasions, you have to have a different shirt. And unless you use it rough and tough, it will not serve the purpose. So gross body, it is destruction of the gross body is inevitable. Subtle, just like I'm driving a vehicle. Obviously, the tire will get eroded after some time. I have to change the tires. You cannot say, no, I will also have the tire and also run the vehicle. So subtle body also is destroyable. Subtle body means the mind, intelligence, and ego. We cannot get rid of the subtle body. Just because you commit suicide, people think if I commit suicide, the end of the problem. No, the problem will go with the mind. That's why the soul starts harassing others. Because the gross body is not there. At least when the gross body was there, he could somehow vent it out, that problem. But now he doesn't have the gross body also to vent it out, so he starts haunting other people. So the subtle body consists of the mind, intelligence, and false ego. Subtle body means it is there, but we cannot see it. Its effect is more powerful than the gross body. So the soul is eternal. Three things Krishna is talking about: the gross body, subtle body, and the soul. Natvevaham jatunasham natvam neme janadipa nachaiva na bhavishyama sarve vayam atah param. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings. So it's not just a private conversation happening between Arjuna and Krishna. Krishna is saying that all of us are involved in this war, and it matters to everyone. What matters to everyone? That we were there in the past also, we are in the present also, and will remain in the future also. Despite all that is happening around you, that is first thing is him. Nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. That is the first fact Krishna establishes, because we are always caught in the present sometimes. We think too much about the present that we forget about the past or the future. But we still study in history the past, and we also have to think about the future. Without this, we cannot just think about the limited present. And even though we do not know that, Krishna is the supreme eternal amongst all the eternal beings and is the maintainer of all individual living entities, both in their conditioned and liberated states. Just like this IIT was there even before you joined it, and after you leave it also, it will be there. So Krishna being the eternal, supreme eternal, he knows, even though we are changing our bodies, his body doesn't change. So he knows our past, present, and future much better than. Now, Arjuna's concern is, I have so many relatives and friends. They are all related to me. But that is the problem, because these are all, this relationship anyway will perish. But the point is that even if this body dies, and supposing I am related to you in certain way, when that after my death or your death, that relation obviously breaks. But Krishna says that because you are a soul, that relationship will continue even after we die. That's why they say Amar Kahani and all. Amar Kahani means what they say is that even after the body dies, the relationship will continue. That is a fact. That's why we see we are again and again meeting the same person. There are millions of people. Why we are in this room now, 50 or 30 of us are here? We had the choice of being anywhere. We are here means previously we had some relationship. That's why we are together here. So those who assembled on the battlefield, unless they had some relationship before, they would not be there. And because they are related now, they will be related in the future in some situation. So that Krishna is trying to say. So don't worry that, okay, you lost your, sometimes you see you have a close friend or relative. You departed, he went to some city, you went to another city. And suddenly after 10 years, you meet him. And there are people who met them after 20 years also. They say, oh, I didn't never expected that we'll meet. How it happened? So something like that only is happening. If you are around surrounded by some people, it means that you are related to them before. And because you are there with them now, it's very likely that you will be with them in the future also. Even in fluid dynamics, we see that fluid can go whichever way it wants, but some conservation principle laws are there which make the particles move in a certain way. The change of body is natural. Dehinosmin yata dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tata dehantara prapti dhiras tatra muhyate. These are all very important verses. Actually, we can spend 1 week on each verse, but we are spending a few minutes. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, soul is going through different types of experiences. Even in physics, it's being proved that whatever you are experiencing, it is seeing around you is actually an experience. It is in your mind. It is not, you cannot prove that it's exact. I cannot say that his mic is here. That Descartes in 16th century, he argued Descartes' skepticism. He said that you say, I see something, smell, taste, and something, that is not a proof. But modern science is saying the proof is you show me something, then I'll believe it. But 500 years itself, the scientists argued that just because I see, smell, taste, touch, and then doesn't mean that exists, because it can be only an experience in my mind. So whatever experience we are having, that I am a young boy, I am a child, I am a grown-up man, this is only a experience. It is not reality. So from boyhood to youth, the embodied soul continuously passes from this body from boyhood to youth to old age. Soul similarly passes into another body at death. So what is death? Death is a new experience. You are changed, just like you are watching a movie in front of you. There are so many scenes, they are going so fast, and you see it as a movie. Movie means, olden days, they used to have movie means a film was there. In that film, so many pictures will be there. In one picture, slightly different from the previous one or the one after. So like that, the body is imperceptibly going through some changes, and we are taking it for granted. But at the time of death means the moment we die, which means another body is waiting for us. We don't see it now, but it is there. Unless you have very sinful life, generally, because the other body is ready, this body, we are leaving the, otherwise the soul cannot leave the body. That Hiranyakashipu was there, he was doing penance. His body was completely eaten by all the ants because he is doing so much austerity. But why he didn't leave that body? Because the soul will not leave the body unless it has the next body waiting for it. So all this is, so a sober person is not bewildered by such a chain. Sober person means who is having steady knowledge or intelligence. He can see the reality. Just like you see, I'm seeing through the window, some person just passes by. I cannot say he suddenly appeared in the window. Logic tells me that he was there before, and after he disappears also, he will be somewhere. But if you don't apply a logic, you will say, no, he suddenly appeared and suddenly disappeared. So like that, you thinking that, okay, he was born and he's dying, but actually it's a panorama of events which you don't really understand. So Dira is a sober person who has perfect knowledge of constitution of the individual soul, the super soul, and nature, both material and spiritual. So knowledge means three things. One is you should know about the soul and the supreme soul, because you may forget. Although we are talking all this Bhagavad Gita, we will forget. Once you get out of this class, you will forget that you are the soul. But Krishna is concerned because he has a body which will never make him forget. He'll always act like the soul. So that's why it's the super soul. And the nature. Nature means it's always unconscious. It cannot think, feel, and will like us. This microphone suddenly cannot think, feel, and will. One may rejoice the change of body as one gets a new body with regenerated energy. So why the body has to change? Unless the body changes, you cannot enjoy whatever you want. You have so many desires. And right now I am in this body because I can fulfill one particular desire. Then if I want to enjoy something else, I have to change the body. Supposing I want to fly like a bird, unless I get a bird's body or a fish body, I cannot get the full experience of flying or swimming. Each 84 lakh species are there. Each species is best for one kind of enjoyment, so naturally I need to change the body, and that is desirable. Some people like to change the body. That's why in the Puranas we see one demon was killed. No problem. Immediately appears in another body. And he is killed. Then also, then again he appears in another body because he knows the science of changing the body and he doesn't mind it. So one may say, no, I don't care about the past and future. I am only concerned about the present. Then Krishna says that is not possible. Tolerate the temporary dualities. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agama apayano nitya stantitikshasva bharata. O son of Kunti, senses experiencing the sense object. Matra sparshastu. So whatever experience is there, it's actually a contact of the senses with the sense objects. So the senses means the sense of hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. And depending on what sense object you have, sense object means the particular ear, eyes, nose, tongue, and skin. Accordingly, you get an experience. See, mercury used for measuring in one way, then alcohol is also used for measuring temperature. But mercury properties are different from alcohol properties. Similarly, every living entity has a sense of smell, taste, touch, and hearing. But depending on what body it acquires, it gets a different. Supposing I see through a green glass, I see everything green. If I see through a red glass, I see everything red. Or if I see through an opaque object, I won't see anything. So whatever experience, each of us, it appears that we have different experiences. But actually, it is because of the different types of bodies we have acquired. But naturally, essentially, we all have the same capacity. Matra sparsha shitoshna dukha. So if you're experiencing heat and cold, it means it is because of the body only. The soul has no such feeling. Soul doesn't have pain, pleasure, sorrow, victory. It is because you are in contact with the body, you get that feeling. So agama apayano nityasya. Their appearance and disappearance are non-permanent. Because the body is not permanent, whatever experience you're getting to the body is also not permanent. Just like in a dream, we see so many things. But once you wake up from the dream, you see it has no value. So right now, because you have a particular body, that body that makes you feel that, yes, what I am experiencing is correct, but it is not reality. One must learn to tolerate. What does toleration means? When does tolerance come? Some people say, I cannot tolerate it. Why he is not able to tolerate? Because he doesn't have an alternative thought. Suppose if I give you an alternative, better alternative, then you will not care about the lesser alternative. But because we don't see the better alternative, we are stuck up in that point and we keep arguing. No, I just cannot accept it. Supposing you are arguing with someone and someone comes and gives you a better option, obviously you give it up. So right now we are not able to tolerate these dualities. Why? Because we are So one has to execute his duty despite climatic inconveniences. If you are fixed in your duty, then no matter what goes right or wrong, it will not affect you. That's why we say the most successful people, they don't get disheartened by one failure or success. They know if I remain fixed in my work, do diligence, success or failure doesn't matter to them. They get so much fame, money, everything, they are not concerned at all. Or even if they lose something, they don't care about it because they are so tuned into what they are supposed to do. So now Krishna is addressing Arjuna as Kaunteya and Bharata to encourage him that you should not think like this. The way you're thinking is wrong. So so why one should be equanimity like this? Is it some people may say you're compromising, and that is not so good. So yam hi na vyatayantyete purusham purusharshaba samadukka shukam dhiram somrutatvaya kalpate. O best among men. Krishna is encouraging Arjuna, or best among men. That is, a person who's not disturbed. Purusham, Purusharshaba. Purusha means man. Purusharshaba means the best among men. I mean, Vyatayantiyate is not disturbed. Samadukka Sukham Dhiram, equal in both happiness and distress. Why? Happiness and distress are relative. Supposing you are a patient, you are in distress. You go to a doctor, is happy. Why? Because you are a customer for him. Or you go to the lawyer, you are struggling with a legal case. For him, it's happy because he is getting a client. So like that, one man's poison is another man's food. So what is happiness may be distress later, distress today may be happiness tomorrow. So Somritatvaya is certainly eligible for. If you practice this way of life, that you will be able to tolerate both, then you will be more successful. Why? That's Krishna. How is that possible? Following one's dharma. If you are situated in your dharma, then Krishna will go on to explain what is higher and higher dharma. So, if you are firmly fixed in your duty, then the success and failure will not affect you. That's what Krishna is. So then Krishna arises, what is the duty of the soul? So then Krishna will gradually lead him to that stage. What is the conclusion of the seers of the truth? Verse 16. So now Krishna is not just asking Arjuna to accept whatever he says as final. He's saying not only me, those who have already seen the truth or experienced the truth, what do they say? That no permanent existence for the material body. Don't try to change this fact. Don't try to make a person live forever. Of course, you will have to try. You have to do some treatment or something possible. But don't try to make the body permanent. It's not possible, neither it is required. Because the moment the body is unfit, just like this mic is in Indian countries, supposing something is not working, we keep on repairing it. But in foreign countries, if it's not working, they'll just discard it and buy a new one. So we think we are intelligent, but not necessary. So like that, Krishna is saying, body is bound to get old and die. So immediately nature will provide you a new body. So why do you worry? And at the same time, the soul is permanent. That also you cannot change. Just because someone died doesn't mean the soul, end of the soul. That is the Buddhist conception is, once the body dies, the soul dies. Or some people say there's no soul at all. I don't see the soul. Why do I have to believe it? That doesn't change the fact. The soul, whether you believe in it or not, whether you can see it is permanent or not, the soul is permanent. These two facts Krishna establishes. Then there are 6 changes which undergo in the body. Anything is there before it is born. This microphone, it didn't exist. It is now existing. Then after some time, it will grow. Just any human body is there, it keeps growing. Then it reaches one standstill state. It doesn't grow further, and it produces some byproducts and then dwindles and vanishes. So these 6 stages are, you can see in all material objects, including the body. But the soul doesn't undergo these, just like Avinashi. Avinashi means whatever changes are happening to the body or the material world around us, the soul is not really affected. The soul is affected because of its identification with the body and material nature. So material body was spirit soul. Antavanti ime deha nityasyokta sharirina anashino aprameyasya Tasmad Yudyasva Bharata. So here itself, Krishna is telling Arjuna what he should be doing. The Antavattu Ime Deha, the material body is perishable. This fact you cannot change. Nobody has tried to change also. Who has not tried to change? Even the most intelligent person has not tried it. Nityas Yokta Sharirana, the embodied soul is eternal. The soul has to have a body because the soul cannot function without a body. But the embodied soul is eternal. And Anashino Aprameya, that soul is indestructible, Anashi. And Aprameya, immeasurable. Can you measure the soul? Any material particle is there. I say its size is so much, so many angstrom or whatever dimensions you say. But soul, you cannot give a dimension. Just like a point is there. Point has no dimension. Although points, you put together all the points and make a line which has a dimension. So that is the problem. How something which has dimension has come about by combining an object which has no dimension. This is inconceivable. So likewise, the soul, without the soul, the body will not function. But the soul has no size. How is that? That is achintya. And therefore fight or disendeavor. In other words, some things cannot be changed and something will change. Irrespective of that, you have to perform your duty. The soul doesn't kill or get killed. The soul by nature cannot kill because soul is spiritual and body is material. These two are incompatible. So one cannot affect the other. Although the effect seems to be there, eventually the soul cannot produce matter and matter cannot produce the soul. So therefore, if two things are similar nature only, they can have a conflict. But two things, just like oil and water is there, they don't mix. It's easy to separate oil and water. So the soul and body, although as an emulsion, the oil and water mix temporarily, but they can break. Like milk is an emulsion. Sometimes the milk breaks, the solid separate from the water because they are different. So similarly, the soul and body, although they are together all the time, actually by nature they are different. So therefore, one cannot affect the other, although it seems they are affecting each other. So the analogy is given. If you still argue that no, I want to see the soul, then Shastra says it is 1/10,000 part of the tip of the hair. So which means it is so small that even the best instrument, material instrument cannot measure it. That already proven. You don't have to do research. Already the research has been done and it has been shown that just like an electron is there, the wave particle duality is there. Why? Because if you think it's like a particle, it should be in one place. But we are seeing that that a subatomic particle, it seems to be present everywhere. So obviously, it has some properties which we don't know. Similarly, the soul has some properties which is much, much different from the properties of the body. So next, the soul never dies. Na jayate briyate va kadachin ayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha ajo nitya shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. The soul has neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primeval. He is not killed when the body is killed. So these are facts he is stating. And the body undergoes 6 changes, and no one can kill the soul. So these are immediately difficult to accept. I see so many people committing murder in front of me. Just like I'm in a vehicle, my vehicle goes and hits another vehicle. So vehicle is only hitting the other vehicle. I'm not directly coming in contact with the person. Because I'm having that vehicle, it seems that I am hitting the other person. But so essentially, that's why sometimes even if there's an accident, that person is let go free. Why? Because they say it is expected. When you're driving a vehicle, there's bound to be some accident. Unless it is so deliberate, they will not going to take any major action against. So the eternal soul, now Krishna goes to further describe about the soul. What are the characters? Nainam chindanti shastrani. It cannot be cut by weapons. If you have to cut something, the object and the instrument should be of same quality. The diamond is there. Using diamond, you can cut a black diamond is there. You can cut a hard material because the diamond and the material have similar properties. but the soul has different properties than that of the soul. So how can the soul can be cut by weapons which are made of 5 material elements? It cannot be burned by weapon, fire, because fire is a material element and soul is spiritual. So some objects can be burned by fire. Some objects can be cut by weapons. That is also, soul has different property. Cannot be moistened by water. Previously they used to have water weapons, tornado weapons, water weapons. So this using the wind and the fire, they used to fight each other. It's unbreakable and cannot be burnt. You cannot divide the soul. You cannot create two souls, or you cannot burn it by the same thing. Is insoluble. Insoluble means it cannot lose its nature. Supposing salt is there, you mix it in water, it becomes salt solution. It gets dissolved in it. So it loses its solidity. It has become part of a liquid. No, the soul is not insoluble and cannot be dried. Supposing salt solution is there, you dry it, and the salt will separate from the water. So that is also not possible. In other words, it cannot be affected by the air. And the everlasting exists everywhere and unchangeable. Everlasting means time cannot affect it. In this world, everything is affected by time. But the soul has no concept of it. Just like in a dream, time is going so fast or slow. But once you wake, the time doesn't really matter. How much time you spent in the dream is not going to help us. So similarly, the time the soul exists in this world is insignificant because it is not bound by time. And it is everywhere. How do you say it's everywhere? It is conscious. It can be conscious, just like there is spooky action and a distance that Einstein was arguing, that quantum mechanics showing that whatever is happening at the other end of the universe can affect other end also by entanglement. So the soul, it can actually be conscious about everything in this world. That capacity it has. So it is present everywhere by its consciousness. Just like the sun is there in one place, but the heat and light is spread all over the universe. So likewise, the soul actually has the capacity to know everything in the world. Even scientifically, it is understood. Otherwise, how we are seeing what is happening in the stars? That information is coming from the stars, which are already decayed. The star has died, but the information is still available to us. So similarly, the soul has the capacity to know everything everywhere. So it need not move. Right now, we are thinking, if I have to go unless I go to the CLT, I cannot see what is happening in the CLT. But not necessary. The soul can become aware of everything, so it need not travel. And it is unchangeable. You cannot change the nature of the soul. You cannot make some chemical combination and change. Just like a metal object is there, I can mix it with some chemicals and make infinite combinations and change the properties of this metal. But soul cannot be changed. It's immovable and eternally the same. Immovable means it doesn't change its property again, the same thing. And imperceptible. Can you put an instrument and detect the soul? That is also not possible because this whatever object measurement problem is there. Measurement means you're using two different natures to understand something which is a totally different nature. So you cannot perceive. You have to accept it by its effect only. Just like, has anyone seen the coronavirus? At least I don't believe that. Can show it in terms of effect only. You can show, but exactly nobody can say that this is, and I can show you. So this imperceptible, inconceivable. Inconceivable means using our intelligence, we cannot understand everything. There are some things like a diamond is there. Sometimes it has some healing properties. Herbs are there, they can heal you, but you cannot explain it. There are some things are inconceivable. Immutable or without change, knowing it to be thus, you should not grieve for the world. So now Krishna is giving all these reasons to show why the soul is different from the body. So that is good. Yeah. Okay, maybe I'm going over time, so I'll stop here. So this is a very important chapter, so I spent more time. One who is born is sure to die. After death, one is sure to take birth again. Both are unavoidable. Therefore, doing your duty, you should not lament. So this is the conclusion of this section, that whatever be, accept the facts and don't try to change some of the facts. Still, you have to perform your duty. That is the intelligence. You cannot keep on changing things which cannot be changed, or the other way. So in other words, to do your duty, this is not a problem. That fact that the soul is permanent and the body is temporary should not stop you from doing your duty. And that will, just like their waves are coming in the ocean. One wave is going up, one wave is going down. But if you are using the ship properly, the same up and down movement helps you to move forward. If there's no up and down movement, the ship will not move forward also. But if you are intelligent, you can use that different properties to navigate yourself. So this is, we'll stop here. Hare Krishna. Any comments or questions, both on the chat and also the live audience? So this section is known as the Sankhya Yoga, or analytical study. Krishna is doing the analysis for us based on the scriptures and the opinion of the knowledgeable person. Yes.
In 26, you told that soul is immovable. What do you mean by that? Because if any human being or entity dies, you just told that soul is from a body. Only then other bodies are living. So soul is moving from one body to another. So what is that is part of just go for
Yeah, so just like you see the shadow, sometimes the shadow seems to be becoming long or short, but we know that the object is not moving, the source of light is moving. So likewise, the soul, when it in a dream, for example, you are seeing you are moving here and there, but you know it's only a dream experience. You neither move, body is lying there only, but by your thought process, it's taking you to different places. So this soul, actually, it doesn't have a place. You cannot say the soul is here. But when the moment it identifies as the body, then only it has a particular place. You can say the soul is here. Just like you say that the superposed state is there of a subatomic particle, which means it doesn't have a specific location. The moment you measure it, you say it is there. Unless you measure it, it is not there. So something like that, the soul is there. It is not having any specific place. But when you identify it with the body, you can say, yes, it is there. Till that time, the soul is no any, because as I said, any material thing only has a place. You can say this object is there, it's a material thing, it has a specific place, location. It is here, I can say. It cannot, if it is here, it cannot be there. That is the definition of a material object. But the soul is not material, so soul has no particular place. But when the soul identifies with the body, I say, I am, supposing I asked you once, you're in outside IIT, I ask you where are you studying? I say, I'm studying in IIT. So what you means is, when I'm functioning there, I am there. But the soul actually is not there in the body. The pranas are the life airs. They are going through the body. The pranas are different from the atma. Just like the sun is in one place, but heat and light is, we perceive it, its presence in the heat and light in the objects here. So it's a little detailed explanation. I hope someone can. Jagdish Prabhu, you want to say in a better way? His question is, how do you say the soul is immovable when you say the soul is in the body?
So we know that all the parameters of economic balance, economic development, that all respectively give value to emotions. Will go up to because it is not the benefit. Because they won't be very happy. With removal and exposed to our decisions. So we know everything perceptions. We get no evidence in the mindset. Please, you cannot change. Does it make sense? So you cannot because it is failure. You will be there. Anything you want to do, you will have a failure. It's beyond everything. It's like you want to catch me. Very simple letters and catch it. But let's say you try to understand this. This is the different dimensions. There are different types. There are not you cannot catch one with the other. So with no analytical activities or elements, you can actually make a difference. For instance,
Just like this object is there, I have a window. In that window, I am viewing this, and the window is moving. So obviously, in that window, this position of this is changing, but I know it is there. So even whether the sun is going around the earth or earth is going on sun, it's a relative. If you fix the earth as the center, then the sun is rotating. You can prove that the sun is rotating, but you keep sun as the center, then the earth is rotating. So whatever we have experienced in this world is only relative experience. It's not the actual experience. So although the soul seems to be moving from body to body, it is only because of the consciousness of the awareness. You think, supposing you're watching the movie and you start identifying what's happening in the movie, you start crying and laughing, but actually the movie is different from you. So the soul as such, it is not moving from body to body, but because it is thinking about the meditating on that body, it gets the feeling that it's moving. Just as in a dream body, you get the feeling that you are flying or somewhere. You went here, there. When once you wake up, you see nowhere the body is lying here. So like that, the soul gets a feeling that it is in that body. I think partially I explained. Maybe personally I'll talk to you.
it is all the way.
How is the soul immobile?
It is
How would you say soul is immobile when it is changing bodies?
there anywhere. This movie. Understand? All are related. So all are considered it is beyond your medical perception. It is your beyond the medical measurements. So as Moses mentioned, we mentioned on point blank, measuring. Again, the same place from the Upanishads is quoted, it is 1,000. In a contradiction, you can't measure the See, basically, we always want to have a perception, right? For us to get a feel of it, that is such a small that it can enter into the smallest thing in this world, like a bacteria or a virus, and still make it alive. It gives us a perception, but it is not a measurement, right? And at the same time, it expands everywhere. So you need to understand this is not a materially measurable understanding. It is not material perception. So we the matter do not know, do not change. Right? Does that make sense?
Also, we see that Arjuna and Krishna, they went to Vaikuntha Loka. Actually, even materially, if you see, going to a far-off planet takes so much time, but they could travel instantly. So, which means they know the science of the soul better. There are some yogis who sit in one place, but they can perceive what's happening in some other planet. So basically, the soul is conscious. So whatever experience it is having, as if I am in this body, I am moving from here to there, that is only a perception. Yes, any other? Maybe I will address you personally later first.
And for that, you that Krishna was ready to go with the Lord Krishna. And he has full control of benefit.
Yes.
That we had, if you are in control state, whether to go back to, so maybe we can
Can you rephrase? Can you rephrase what she's saying?
Yeah, in the then I told that I was ready to repeat it. No, repeat the round from Krishna. And if you told someone that is complete control of the present. That he had complete control of the present. Because he was in continuous state, whether to have to against it.
So basically, we explain what was the qualification of Arjuna as a devotee. So then he said one of his qualities is Shamata and Dama. Sama means equanimity. Equanimity means they are not affected by the dualities. Then Dama means sense control. One is about the mind and one is about the senses. So this is required for getting this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna was already having. Now the question may arise then why Arjuna fell into this situation. So that is explained that it is momentary. Sometimes a healthy person is there. He is functioning perfectly. But supposing he falls ill, at that moment, obviously, you have to relieve him from the duty because you know he's sick temporarily. Once he comes back to his healthy condition, then he will act perfectly. So right now, we have lost that Shamata and Dama. So we are struggling. But once we come to the stage where we are able to practice equanimity and sense control, then this knowledge will come automatically. What Krishna is telling will come spontaneously to us. Now, no matter how many Bhagavad Gita classes I do, even I am doing, but I may not follow because I am not practiced in sense control and mind control. But Krishna says it is possible that you can, what is the way he will explain in the later chapters. That's why even Arjuna now, momentarily, he has lost his mind control and sense control. Although he was previously well accomplished in mind control and sense control. But momentarily, he lost that. But after hearing the Bhagavad Gita, he regained that mind and sense control. He says at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, now I regained my ability to fight. So that's why we are saying that if you get this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, this mind control and sense control becomes natural for you. And then you will be able to do your duties much better than what you are doing right now. Is that somewhat answered?
Yeah.
Mind control? For the soul. Yeah.
Can we point that because we do everything
Yes.
or belong to baby.
Okay, two questions she asked. What is the difference in the soul and the mind? Currently, our soul is different from the subtle body, which has the mind, intelligence, ego. That is, right now, our soul is different from the mind. And soul is also different from the gross body. Gross body means this body which is made out of these 5 material elements and the 5 senses, 5 knowledge acquiring senses, 5 working senses, all that will be explained. These are the 20 elements. Then again, we have the earth, water, fire, air, and ether, 5 elements. These all 20. Then then we have the mind, intelligence, and false ego. These are the 3. So, but this soul is different. Currently, the soul is different from all this. So therefore, we need to think about mind control and sense control. But actually, the soul has also a mind and a body, which is subtle, much more subtle. It is pure state. In that state, there's no need for sense or mind control. When you are actually on the soul platform, you also have a mind and a senses. But that is different from the current mind and the current sense. Now it is like an acquired intelligence, artificial intelligence. So we are just like a person who cannot walk. He has to take some support to walk. The child cannot drive a two-wheeler, he uses a tricycle. So right now, because the soul also has a mind and senses, but since they are not activated, right now we are using the material mind, material senses, and that's where the need for the control arises. But once you practice devotion, then the sense and mind control becomes very easy for us. Right now it is imposed. We have to impose on us. That's the first part. And second part you are asking is, when the mother is carrying a child, is it mean that two souls are in the body? Yes and no. The first argument is yes, because this, just like you say, sun is on my head. What I mean is I can feel the sun on my head by the heat, and I can see it. Right now, the sun may be far away, but I am able to see it because the light from the sun is coming to me and the heat is coming to me. So likewise, in one sense, the soul is in the body and not in the body. Because the question is, the moment it leaves the body, where is it going?
Child is not born with it. So, like, sometimes we show in movies that one of them is blind and another person is baby blind and the child is born. We are trying to show that this soul again is born as the child. It doesn't happen like that. Without the principle of the soul, the baby is not born with it. Growth is one of the characteristics of the physical soul. Soul is present in the heart, but it is the whole body is conscious because of the presence of the soul in the heart. We are not able to see the soul. Tomorrow also, after many years also, there will never be any instrument to which anyone can see the soul, no microscope or anything like that. We understand soul from its characteristic, and the characteristic is the consciousness. If I pinch myself here or my toe, I can feel it. I pinch here also, I can feel it. It's because of the presence of the soul.
Actually, the soul is present in the body through consciousness. Just like you, same example I'm giving in the dream. You're conscious about the dream. Otherwise, why you wake up very happy or distressed? Because you're conscious about what's happening in the day. Similarly, the soul is present in the body only because of the consciousness. Otherwise, in one sense, it is not there, because we are saying soul is immovable, which means it doesn't have a specific place. But momentarily, we have to accept that it has a place. It is in that body. What do we mean that it's there in the body? It means that just the Prime Minister is there in Delhi, but I say he's here means his power is still here. Because of him, I am able to experience something is happening here, although he is there. So although the sun is far, far away, without the sun, I cannot live here, which means in that sense, the sun is here. The Prime Minister is in Delhi, but his power is so much that I can feel it here also. Sometimes I have to get a sanction, means it has to go all the way up to the Prime Minister. So the soul doesn't have any specific place, because if it had a place, then it would become material. Because this object is material, I can say it is located in this place. But soul, it doesn't have a place, but it acquires a place when the consciousness is attached to the body. So it may look vague, but the fact is it is simultaneously there and not there. It is simultaneously, yes, it is there. The mother is there, the soul is there in the mother, and the child is there in the womb of the mother. Yes, it is there also, we say. But strictly speaking, it is not there. Only the pranas, the life airs are there in that body. And through that life airs, we can say in one sense the soul is there. But anyway, we'll see in the next verse, Krishna says, after this conclusion of this discussion on the soul and the body, he says, although we speak about the soul or hear about it, we cannot understand it. Some things you have to accept, even though you don't understand. There are many things in science also. We accept them without understanding it fully. We are using technology and doing every wonders we are doing. It's not that we understood perfectly about that. We'll say we have to do still some research. So similar way, the soul, no matter how much research you do, you can explain it only to some limited extent. But So you have to accept that it is inconceivable, it's immovable. All this Krishna is trying to explain. Maybe we can get in further more details. Yeah, any more questions? Yeah.
Just now you proved that soul is required for a goal. So when a woman is carrying the child, can you say that she is carrying two souls? And when the child is born, can you say that one soul is the child and one soul is the womb?
Yeah, please. He is Dr. Jagdish. He is also an alumni of IIT Madras. He has done his PhD in computer science. He is working in Cisco at a senior position. I requested him to accompany us.
I just need to add, like you, he was also a drinking. Now his daughter is joined and she is his father. She's also joined IIT. She is supposed to go shooting on the thing. So he is like the first instance, like Kageshi, she is a devotee child. And Vaishnavi is special because she is your daughter. You came from this class and your daughter is also joined. Okay, so very nice.
His question was whether the child in the
Mother child. See, question four. That's one soul something. There are so many other so actually one soul. So there is nothing more than one soul. So now let's explain. Without the soul, nothing in the creation moves without conscious awareness. This is the fundamental piece. Nothing in the creation, no matter moves, no change happens without a conscious awareness. Nothing in the creation moves without a conscious awareness. Whether the sun is shining, planets are moving, planets flowing, water is flowing, nothing in the creation moves without a conscious awareness. No, we reflect as before we study Bhagavad we discuss this part about movement in Canada. Beside you, when you need more to get a system. Nothing can happen. It is seeing what happens when a aeroplane is flying. If you have a child, it's fine. But you don't like it. Cannot love it. Without this specific constant unless the conscious there's almost for the friend, the nature, there is a control of the kind. Always makes me fancy. We just say nature. But nothing is there. Drones.
Just a material analogy use. See, mobile phone is there. I can use my mobile phone and walk all around the room, which means I can, same thing, wave particle duality. One experiment you do, it looks like it is in localized. Another experiment you do, it looks like it is everywhere. So similarly, the soul, in one perspective, it is there in the body. Another perspective, it is not there in the body. So then how can you explain this? So that is explained through the concept of consciousness. As a consciousness can explain how the soul is present in the body as well as not in the body. So we have to accept that, just like you say a particle also has a wave particle duality, which means even the smallest are the biggest. The macroscopic and microscopic quantum mechanics, we say that you cannot fix a position for even the smallest or the biggest. Although you say, yes, if I ask you where is the mic, it is there. But in higher science, if you apply, you cannot say it exists here. So similarly, the soul in one perspective, as per one perspective, yes, you have to accept that it is there in the body. Otherwise, the body will not move. But on another perspective, the soul cannot be in the body, because if it is in the body, then it has a size, because the body has a size, which means the soul must have some size. So these contradictions arise if you think in this way. Okay, it's an elaborate subject. We try to address some point. I think if you have no further questions, we'll stop here. That is the Zoom session we can end. What do you? Huh? Okay, thank you. Sorry, we have taken more time, but because it's a very important chapter. I think they will share the recording as well as the notes and the presentation I made, and the recording of this video. Hare Krishna. Panchakalpatarabhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Nachiket Prabhu, can I end the session? Patit Pavan, shall you?
If you have any further questions, we take that. Just to give you
Okay.
We are not the host, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Mataji is the host.
Right. Okay, I'm using the system. I will end the session. Is okay? No further questions unanswered? Anything I missed in the chat?
No, Prabhuji. There were no questions.
Okay. I will end the session, Mother.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.